Hello, dear brothers and sisters. Let's continue. Biological educational school in honor of Basil the Great. Next. Object. History of the church. History of the church. Next. Study plan. Study plan. 1. The object, method, and periodization of the church history. 2. The main growth of souls and the history of the church. 3. Spirit in the first and 3 centuries. 5. The Christian Church in the Empire in the 4 and 7 centuries, and Constantine the Great, the Theodosius first, and Justinian first. Next, the beginning of dogmatic disputes, Arianism, first and second ecumenical councils. Next, Nestorianism, 3 ecumenical council, separation of the Eastern Syrians, monophysitism, and monothelitism. Next, Copts, Armenians, the Syrians, Ethiopians, the reasons for the separation from the Universal Church, history, and modernity. Ecumenicalism, the 7, the Ecumenical Council. Next, the formation of 4 and 8 centuries. Next, monastic in the West and the 6th and 11th centuries. Okay. Next, the baptism of Russia. The baptism of Russia, the Christian Church in the Byzantine Empire in the 9th and 14th centuries, and church-state relations in Byzantium, the theory of symphony. Okay, next. Next, the heresies, Cathars, and 4 Lateran Council. This is Western theology. Next, Great Western Schism. Next, the teachings of Martin Luther, and next, the Reformation in Germany. Next, the situation of Christians of the Ottoman Empire, the Orthodox East and the Reformation, the old believers in Russia, Christian Church face the problem of secularization, the synodal system in Russia. Next, the Catholic Church in the age. Next, formation of national local Orthodox churches and the Patriarchate of Constantinople, the Russian Church in the creation in the Moscow Patriarchate, and the Fourth Vatican Council and its dogmas, Old Catholicism, and attempts to convert to Orthodoxy, the Catholic Church in the working question, the next, Catholic and Protestant modernism, Orthodox in Russia before the Bolshevik Revolution. Next, Orthodox in the 20th century, pacification during the Soviet period. Okay, very well. Next topic. The era of the early church. The era of the early church. Okay, next. The period of the apostolic man, the church attention to the catechization of new members. The sense of the 1st century, the beginning of the 20th of the 2nd century. This is first period. First period. Second period. The period of apologists. The defense of the true image of the church in the face of the pagan world. In the face of the pagan world. The 20 the end of the second century. The end of the second century. Period. The period of the activism mission and the formation of systematic theology. The third century. Okay. The next epoch is the epoch of the ecumenical councils. The 4th century to the 7th century. 4th century to the 7th century. This era is the early church. First period, second period, third period. Okay, next. The period of the 1st century is called the Apostolic Age, in the honor of the missionary activity of the apostles. The Apostle Paul was the Pharisees who persecuted the first Jewish Christians. He accepted the teachings of the Christ around, began to preach among the Gentiles, which caused misunderstanding and indignation among the Jewish community. There was early Christian community in the Jerusalem, led by James, Peter, and John. James, Peter, and John. Okay, next. The first martyr, Deacon Stephen. His last words were, God forgives them. They don't know what they're doing. He was killed as of 34. Next. Martin. Stephen. Saint Stephen Martin, deacon. An important event in the time of the apostles was the council in Jerusalem, which addressed the need for circumcision for Gentiles converted to Christianity and the need for them to observe all the commandments of Judaism. The decision taken on the council in the 50 or 51 that these requirements did not apply to pagan believers was one of the first steps towards forming Christianity into a separate religion. The apostles continued to spread the new religion throughout the pagan world and founded churches in the cities of the Roman Empire and according to Christian tradition in some neighboring countries. Later, the apostles Peter and Paul were martyred in Rome, the capital of the Roman Empire, according to Christian traditions. The other apostles were also killed at various times for preaching Christians. The last apostle was John, who died around the year. Next, the era of the early church was characterized by many spiritual gifts, and explanations of the second coming of Christ. The pagans did not eat Christians from Jews, but the first persecutions had already begun. For example, Nero set Rome on fire and blamed the Christians. The persecution is not only from annals, Tacitus annals, which indicate that the emperor accused Christians of setting fire to Rome. According to the book of Acts of the Holy Apostles, the term Christian, or Greek, Christianos, was first used in relation to the disciples of Jesus, which means followers, followers of Christ, in the city of Antioch, by non-Jewish residents of this city. The earliest known use of the term Christians, Greek, Greek word, Christianismos, Christianismos belongs to Ignatius of Antioch and dates back to about 100. Okay, next, Antioch. 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 Is the Apostle Peter, the founder of the church in Rome. Church in Rome. Church in Rome. No, no. The words from Matthew. From Matthew. Yeah, Peter, and this rock I will build my church, and the forces of hell will not prevail against it. Refer to all the apostles, not just Peter. St. John Chrysostom writes, on this rock. He did not say Peter, because he did not build his church on man, but on faith. But on faith. His church on man, but on faith. What kind of faith was that? Matthew, Apostle Matthew. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Did Peter found the church in Rome? Probably not. Probably not. He had already come to where the Christian community was. For example, Aquila and Priscilla. Aquila and Priscilla. We are Jews. Originally from Pontus. They lived in Rome. Rome where? By the command of Emperor Claudius. They were split. There is no direct mention of the Holy Scriptures that Peter visited Rome. This, for example, is not reported by Justin the philosopher, who wrote in the first half of the 2nd century in Rome. Researchers are frank, noted. According to Galatians, Peter, James, and John made an agreement with Paul and Barnabas by shaking hands that Paul and Barnabas should conduct their business among the Gentiles, and Peter, James, and John among the Jews. Paul, who wrote the epistle to the church in Rome, greets 27 people by name at the end, but Peter is not mentioned among them. Similarly, as many of the epistles that he wrote to churches and individuals, Peter is not mentioned even once. Okay, next. At the same time, Christian authors write about the stay of the Apostle Peter in the Rome quite late. Origen, 3rd century. Lactanius, early 4th century. Eusebius of Caesarea, Church History, 325. Okay, next. The era of the early church. First period, the second period, and next period. Era of the early church. Okay, next. The age of apologies, 2nd century. Apologies, 2nd century. After the disciples of the apostles, the apostolic man who continued The mission of the apostles. Apologists, a priest who begin to defend this mission, this mission, this mission. Apostolic man, apostolic man. How did the apologists come about? The spirit of the Christian faith by the 2nd century among all segments of the Roman Empire's population caused a negative reaction from many representatives of the pagan world. From a legal point of view, Christianity found itself in the position of an illegal religion. Christian communities fell under the category of illegal religion and to participate in pagan cults was considered sacrilege. Okay, next. During this period, there were attacks on Christians by educated pagans. In addition, slander and gossip spread about Christians, partly caused by the closeness of their meetings. At the same time, defenders of the Christian faith began to appear. As a rule, they were educated people. Their task was to show the pagan world and supremacy of Christianity from sides: civil, philosophical, theological, cultural. Apologists were able to defend the church. Defend the church. Okay? How can be mentioned among the early Christian the apologists? The apologists were Aristides of Athens, Condratus of Athens, Ariston, Justin the Great, the author of the apologies that gave this generation its name. Theophilus of Antioch, Saint Theophilus Antioch, Jason Saint Meliton Saint, okay, Theophilus of Antioch, Athenagoras of Athens, Saint Meliton of Sardis, Claudius, Tertullian, no, Saint, no, Minucius Felix, Saint Irenaeus of Lyons, Tiziano, Pantene, Clement of Alexandria, Origen, and others. Pantene, Tiziano, Erasmus, Clement of Alexandria, Saint Clement. Okay, in the first century, the epoch of the formation of Orthodox theology. This is third century. The epoch of the formation of Orthodox theology. Creation of Alexandria School. The works of Origen, Tertullian, Clement of Alexandria during this period. The schism in Carthage also began due to a dispute over whether those who sacrificed to pagan idols could be accepted back into the church. The dispute between Saint Cyprian of Carthage and Saint Pope Stephen. Between Saint Cyprian and Saint Stephen. Okay. The period active mission and formation of systematic theology, the 3rd century. Okay, very well. Thanks for your attention. I will send homework and the presentation to Telegram chat. You are welcome. Okay.